1960s, the power struggle between King Saud and Crown Prince Faisal gives the lesson to understand the current situation, next kingship succession in Saudi. In this point, I have two questions and comments. First question and comment: what is the decisive reason that King Saud was ousted from the throne while Faisal was successful in coup d'etat in 1964? According to presenter paper, U.S. rejected King Saud asking for support, while supported Crown Prince Faisal's coup d'etat in 1964. U.S. policy at that time, maybe U.S. policy may be a decisive reason of Faisal's successful coup d'etat. On 18 May 1962, Crown Prince Faisal supported to establish the Muslim World League, which was led by the leaders from Muslim Brotherhood, including Said Ramadan, son-in-law of Hassan al-Banna, who expelled from Egypt. The Muslim World League was the opposition against the powerful socialists supported by Egypt President Nasser. Maybe U.S. needed Faisal, who is leading the Islamic world through the Muslim World League against Nasser and the powerful socialists. I think this is the important reason for U.S. to choose the Crown Prince Faisal instead of King Saud. On 31st October 1962, Crown Prince Faisal became the Prime Minister just 5 months after establishing the Muslim World League. And on 2nd November 1964, King Saud was dethroned and exiled to Egypt as a successful coup d'etat of Faisal. King Faisal's main foreign policy subjects were pan-Islamism and anti-socialism. At that time, U.S. policy looks like done the most important role. Maybe U.S. needed strong Islamists against Nasser, and so supported Faisal. Second question and comments: will U.S. continue to support MBS when King Salman passed away? Recently, now MBS lead Yemen war and involved deeply in the Khashoggi murder. Recently in the competition between UAE and Saudi in southern Yemen, it is uncertain that U.S. support MBS. It is very important thing. Although Saudi and UAE are on one hand military and diplomatically in Yemen, the two countries' interests in the Yemen civil war are by no means the same. Both Saudi and UAE appeared to be trying to avoid direct clashes in southern Yemen, while maintaining cooperative ties as much as possible against Houthi. Recently, U.S. has tried to talk Houthi to end the Yemeni war, while not actively intervening in the feud between Saudi and UAE in southern Yemen. Very different. policy. In southern Yemen, UA, which support southern separatists, seems to be superior to Saudi, which support Hadi government. In this situation, the ambiguous US policy is expected to lead a weakening of Saudi influence in Yemen. Meanwhile, Khashoggi connected with Muslim Brotherhood supported by Turkey and Qatar, which are the very strong opposition against Saudi in the Middle East. In Saudi, Al-Sahwa, Al-Sahwa, powerful Islamist, the strong opposition of royal family, is connected with Muslim Brotherhood. 6 September 2017, MBS has cracked down members of Al-Sahwa, including very popular Sheikh Salman al-Auda. Now, US have a good relationship with Turkey and Qatar as well as Saudi. Maybe US won't divide the Middle East. In the future, maybe MBS can be isolated diplomatically, maybe. How do you think of this? US will continue to support MBS after King Salman? I think US policy maybe decide the fate of MBS and the Saudi royal family. Thank you.
Regarding the factors which were the influence upon the success of Faisal's coup d'etat or the power struggle. I think, first of all, the fact King Saud, he failed both in domestic and foreign policies. And he was in trouble. So first of all, the failure as an executive chief and ruler, he failed. But more important is that the perception of the royal family members within ruling royal family, the negative image against the King Saud was pervasive with the irrigated some of the failures of King Saud, I think. So I mentioned about the civil war in Yemen. It was maybe a very important, crucial factor. The first, his trouble when he attempted to assassinate Nasser. So the neighboring Yemen is, I think, very important. Also at that time, both now and to. Of course, I mentioned about several factors. The failure of the King Saud in his governance. Second, the security and the military force organizations. Faisal, he succeeded to control with the help of the Abdullah. when there is coup d'etat, the military forces, physical, the power is crucial. Also, he was a very astute politician and governor, the ruler. He managed well, not only with of course, I think the interesting is one of most important factor for the victory of Faisal in the last armed confrontation was the Britain. British intelligence, the organizations, they provided very detailed the operational manual when the Faisal faced some armed confrontation. You should do that, and step by step, everything the British intelligence, the agents they provided. Of course, when he was in trouble, he faced some crisis. He asked the U.S. to help him, but they rejected. Why? First of all, maybe the national interest of the United States that works, but also now current the situation of Saudi Arabia too. Internal political the power struggle, who will win? So many the experts and the high-ranking officials of the American administration, they advise Trump do not involve too much in the internal power struggle. And regarding you discussed about, you commented about the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. Of course, there was at that time Nasser as an Arab nationalist leader in the Middle East. He was very popular and powerful, not only in Saudi Arabia, but also Kuwait, in the whole areas of the Middle East. So the United States, on the one hand, the Canadian administration tried to have a good relations with Nasser, suggesting some the assistance, aid. But on the other hand, the United States tried to counterbalance the Nasser, as you mentioned, that they used the Faisal. Faisal was the right person because he could develop, manage the modernization and bureaucratization of the Saudi government, bureaucracy and the military organizations. So in this regard, Faisal was successful to convince the royal family members that the better option for the rulership is Faisal. And so that means he was successful in the image war against Faisal. So that means he was so astute. And regarding the current situation, the relationship between Saudi Arabia and the UAE, between the relationship between Muhammad bin Salman and Muhammad bin Zayed. In the beginning, they have a good relations. Maybe the Muhammad bin Zayed is very wise politician, advised MBN. Recently, we see some lift or some tension between the two rulers. And regarding the relationship between UAE and Saudi Arabia in the war in Yemen, maybe you are expert, better expert than me. So, one fact is clear. The Yemen war is very important both for Saudi Arabia and UAE. Maybe UAE has maybe advantage because it's close to UAE. But still, the war in Yemen. Recently, I see some the MBS tries to control or the manages the negative effect of his failure in Yemen war. Also, recently, Prince Khalid bin Faisal also tries to make some the reconciliative gesture toward Iran. Even so, Trump administration is hostile toward the Iran, but still, the regional politics is another affair. Also, Saudi Arabia recently tries to have a good relations with the Qatar, also Iran. So it's fluid situation. When even he asked the Putin to help when he was in trouble and attacks from the United States and the mass media of the United States. When the King Salman passes away, how about the policy of the United States? I think Trump will support if he will be re-elected. But if Trump fails to be re-elected, maybe the MBS will face another challenge, obstacle, because the Khashoggi murder and 2017 purging and the related effect of this problematic the decisions and his behavior aggravated his image seriously. I don't think that in the short term he could restore his the previous past some status. But maybe also Park Chung-hee, he had a serious problem with human rights, dictatorship, democracy. But he succeeded to rule for 20 years, about 10 years. And he succeeded to develop South Korea rapidly. Now we enjoy the high level economy, economy. So I hope maybe he could manage well with a different behavior. Maybe, yeah, that's my answer.
And usually you find the older have like more lands, more wealth, and when in any seasons we visit the older in his house. This is something like culture. Saudi Arabia always, or let me say usually, I think always enjoyed to be the older and the bigger. So usually you find, if even, Sheikh Zayed was a very prestigious person among the Gulf, but still Saudi Arabia is the older brother or older sister. It used to be like that. Currently, the ruler of the bigger country is the youngest one. The true ruler. Let me say, I'm not talking about King Salman. I'm talking about Mohammed bin Salman. And the ruler of the smallest country, but with strategy, is in my age, 57. is older to him, maybe almost 1.5 of his age. In the time, I believe that King Salman told his son, listen to him. He's a very good advisor. Maybe he doesn't trust the other 4 you have mentioned, so you can trust outside more. This, I think, you have to consider. Maybe, just. Second, Yemen. I would like to identify with something very important. Yemen and Somalia. When you think about Yemen, you have to think about Somalia. Yemen and Somalia, they are controlling the entrance of Bab el-Mandeb. So, the countries who have concern about this, to have one regime controlling Yemen, one regime controlling Somalia, and maybe these 2 regimes will be against my regime one day, as Egypt, for example, which is Bab el-Mandeb, very important to me as entrance Suez Canal, or to have 2 regimes here and 2 regimes here, divided country, I mean, at least one of these 2, and one of these 2 will be loyal to me. Keep this in your mind. Third point, considering the question of King Salman after long life to him, if he die, and then his son will be the king or not, or support the United States. Something is always common among everybody, that Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman is very important because, the current situation for interest of Israel and this mutual interest of Netanyahu and Trump for elections. There is another main role of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Very important. That's why even after because we have to remember that the current situation is not United States. It's not Turkey. It's not Russia. They became countries of persons. It's Erdogan, it's Putin, it's Trump. But United States used to be United States institutions. And United States institutions, they have one common floor with Europe and maybe other countries concerning Mohammed bin Salman especially. What is it? Wahhabi. Wahhabi is a threat to them, or to everybody maybe. And he's the one who converted Wahhabi to be current and coming Saudi Arabia. If you compare Saudi Arabia with United Arab Emirates, if you go to any mosque, you will find all Emirati praying in the mosque. But at the same time, it's an open country. Saudi Arabia is not like that. So Saudi Arabia would like to be like United Arab Emirates, maybe. Like example, just because I live there, that's why always I mention United Arab Emirates. So the key to be against Wahhabi. Remember this. That's why before Mohammed bin Salman, even during Mohammed bin Nayef, the crown prince, so no need for war against Iran, because we don't need any one of you powerful. We don't want Wahhabi, we don't want Shiite. But now if you are not Wahhabi, and you defeat Shiite, so maybe we eliminated both of them. So I think, if you ask me as intelligence officer, my background for 30 years before, what is the main threat to Kingdom of Saudi Arabia? I tell you, internally, coup d'etat. And what is the main strength to the current crown prince? Against Wahhabi. Because he will be supported by everybody outside. I want you to follow something with Saudi Arabia. There is a new association, I think, or whatever they call it, entertainment association. Try to follow the title of the songs and the words of the songs. Learn that, please. Songs by very famous singers, what do they say? It's a new Saudi Arabia. These are plans of Saudi Arabia, what they want to do, which is really satisfying the analyst who is listening. Saudi Arabia became different. We want that. Who is controlling that? Do you think Mohammed bin Nayef will be against Wahhabi? I don't think so. See? So we have to consider that. It's not only inside against the families, it's not only because the common interest was Israel against Iran, but something I think bigger. Thank you.
Al-Safa movement and Muslim Brotherhood. I think also Khashoggi is a supporter of Muslim Brotherhood in Saudi Arabia. I think Mohammed bin Salman, he feels the Safa movement, Muslim Brotherhood in Saudi Arabia is a threat to the regime and monarchy. If there is a free election in Saudi Arabia, I think the Muslim Brotherhood and the Safa movement, they could be very powerful.
First of all, I found this Dr. Khomeini's paper very interesting. in my opinion, it lays out the pragmatic and realistic scenarios of what transpired in this crisis between the US and Iran and impacts on even East Asia. And it helps us get a sense of about what's changed and what's new and what is going to happen in the future. So many of the conclusions in his paper cover the nature and trajectory of tensions between Iran and the United States in the region. So I'll have some comments, short comments, and after that I'll give some questions. The US walked away from the JCPOA in May of 2018. So for the year after that, Iran conducted a foreign policy to isolate the US from Europe and other remaining signatories in the Iran's nuclear deal by staying with the deal and see if Iran can get some economic benefits from especially European countries. But the strategy was partially successful. It created a political division between the US and other European allies. But in terms of economy, it did nothing to boost the economy. So there was a year of debate going on inside Iran, how to respond to the US withdrawal from the nuclear deal. And finally, they got the straw that breaks the camel's back. So that causing a shift in strategy. So that straw was the great aggressive measure taken by the Trump administration this year, and that the United States no longer extends the waivers for Iran to sell its oil in an effort to take down Iran's oil to zero. After that, Iran began rolling back its commitments to the agreement in May this year, and it has vowed to take incremental steps away from the deal, and until it gets better things to offset the US sanctions. And Iran is now operating dozens of advanced centrifuges to speed up uranium enrichment in Fordo's nuclear facility. And Iran's advanced centrifuges announcement coincided with the 40th anniversary of the 1979 Iran hostage crisis. And there have been some military confrontation between the US and Iran that might lead to a war. This led to a significant change in Iran's strategy. And Iran is pushing the pressure on those who remain in the deal and showing a signal to other remaining signatories in JCPOA. And despite the US withdrawal, Iran was in compliance with the nuclear deal, even though the European governments want to engage economically with Iran to preserve the JCPOA, but companies not, because of the fear of losing access to the American financial system. And all of the things are playing into this crisis. And in my view, good news is that neither side wants a war, neither the US leadership nor the Iranian leadership. They avoid the war which will embetter the entire political, economic, and security systems in the region. But bad news is that military confrontation is going to happen at any time due to miscalculations of both sides. They might cross the threshold. Iran's proxies in the region might launch more missile attacks on the US bases or US troops in the region, and the US would respond to those attacks against miscalculated targets. So this kind of tit-for-tat strategy will intensify the military escalation and trigger the war. So now I want to ask some questions from you about this dynamic escalation between two adversaries. Since the end of Cold War, the power dynamic has been shifted in this region. And we have witnessed the emergence of non-state actors, such as terrorist groups, militant groups, proxies of regional powers such as Iran, Saudi Arabia, and even Turkey in the region. So given the significant role of new players in the region, new concerns are raised. So my first question is how new actors have affected the aspect or nature of this crisis between the US and Iran. And secondly, both U.S. leadership and Iran's leadership are currently under attack in their domestic affairs. Donald Trump has faced a grueling impeachment inquiry over his quarrel with the Ukraine counterpart, which is at the center of impeachment process. And on the other hand, the Iranian leadership is facing challenges now from the nationwide protest triggered by Iranian government's announcement on a hike of gasoline price. So the fuel price has increased threefold now, which angered the public. So second question is this: what kind of effects will these domestic backlashes have in the crisis of the United States and Iran?
The last part, this last part is again, the oil price has affected?
That is, what kind of effects will these domestic backlashes, these against two leaderships, have in the crisis in the United States and Iran? And will it worsen the escalation, or is it possible to de-escalate this escalation? And then thirdly and last, my question is, sanctions at the center of the U.S.-Iran crisis, they have had impacts on international level, including East Asian countries. And high international oil prices are not only likely to negatively affect local firms' business sentiments, but also raise the consumer prices. The problem is serious here because South Korea heavily relies on crude oil, and U.S. sanctions would lead to these supply problems in South Korea. And on the other hand, others say economic impact will be minimal because there are other ways to overcome the strategy and these energy supply shortages. So, and the South Korea has diversified its import source from Iran to other countries in response to these U.S. sanctions against Iran. And also, South Korean government has conducted several energy policies to advance the renewable energy industry. So my question is this: do other Arab countries perceive this situation as an opportunity to strengthen economic or industrial ties with these East Asian countries, especially South Korea? If so, what are specific plans for that? Thank you.
First of all, if you don't mind, just I do it my own way. Whom you think are the regional powers in our region? Whom you think? I need answer, really. I would like to know. Whom you think are regional powers in our region? 2, not 5, as everybody says. Not Egypt, Turkey, Iran, Israel, and Saudi Arabia. Only Turkey and Iran. National powers, which we learned to be regional powers, right? Israel even is not regional power. Israel is a very small country, and because it used to be supported by the United States, it's regional power. Used to be called like regional power. It's a big difference between power and influence. But some countries are influential, like, Russia is considered the United States as a regional power, not superpower. But it's more influential in north of the Middle East. So, an influence here, now it's different. That's why I call what's going on in our region, especially in Horn of Africa and Middle East, is lack of management of affluence. Because the misusage of other elements away of regional power. Like finance is not economic power. Finance is finance. Economic power is resources, manpowers, effective human powers, and technology. So who can do that in this region? It's very important. But I have fund, big finance. It's not a regional power. So the true powers, too, I believe, but actors are many. So I believe the main actors inside the region is United States and Russia, international level, regional level, 5 countries I mentioned. In addition to, I would like to put aside 3 important countries, Saudi Arabia, Emirates, and Qatar. Especially when a split happened, because it became like big rivalries among them. And I think the regional rivalry and international rivalry affect a lot. Terrorism, I think it was a start used by whoever, I don't care, I'm not researching that, but now they need another job. They are looking for another job. They need a fund. So they are not acting actor in the region. They are just tool to be used by any of the actors I mentioned. However, it's not the point. I'm really not researching that. So this is if I could answer your first question. So then I want to confirm something I think from my point of view and tell me if I'm wrong. Why United States in the Middle East? Should the United States leave because you don't need oil anymore? I don't think so. And we have to make we all read the national security strategies of the United States, 2002, 6, 10, 15, 17, even the hidden one, which is 13 by Hillary Clinton. So all of them have been written very well, and it's mentioned clearly in 2015 that something like in international order section, please, 2015, National Security International Order section, you will find that first one, Asia. We are here, with sharp powers even, United States, I mean, and because 50% of external growth of United States is coming from Asia in the next 5 years and more. Middle East became source of trouble. So it's not because we don't need what we have, but because source of trouble. But in the same time, this is the strategy of our doctrine of Obama, the last one, which is lead from behind. Finish with your whatever challenges, and we support you from behind. But why they are in the region? Because they would like to control the industrial countries. Because if I'm controlling the oil, I'm controlling the industrial countries. And as you mentioned, this agreement 1953, I remember, so to make the oil price in dollars. If you print every day one, you will suffer inflation, but if they day every $1, they will not suffer because you support the dollars by buying oil. So that's why it's very important to them, it's very important to them to continue in the Middle East somehow. Withdrawing with military elements, it's not a true withdrawing. And it's not the wrong time to the United States Congress. But remember, when the United States start any mission, they have the start state and the end state. And the end state is threatened because it's funded it's budgeted by the Congress. And they believe that this end state of Afghanistan, end state of Syria, according to the end state, has been signed and written and decided by Congress. This will be the last day of funding. But again, here it's not a choice of Trump or even Obama before him what's going on right now, because I think that the United States is always respecting the main goal they have. They can change with strategy, but they respect the main goal. The second question, to be honest, even you repeated to me, I couldn't get it. Maybe it's my fault. I'm sorry about that.
Second question is, what kind of effects will the domestic backlashes?
Domestic battle? Backlashes. Okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah, okay. Okay, good. First of all, energy security, for sure. It's well known now. Second, I will tell you something I hope not provoking to Korea. When I heard about what's going on between Japan and Korea increasing, it was a surprise to me. You know why? Because one of the impacts I expected from what's going on by the United States right now, which is common to everybody, I felt it from Europe as well, even in Honduras, that the United States is withdrawing from its alliances. If the main support withdrawing from its alliances, that means regional alliances will increase. And what's going on is different. Whatever the reason, I respect all reasons, but it's different. And this really gives me indication, maybe this one of the impact, by the way. It gives me indication like what? Who is more beneficiary from this increasing of or escalating the political issue or whatever you call it between Korea and Japan? The most beneficiary is not China, it's the United States. Why? Because if you feel that I am withdrawing, isolation became more. So if you get together, it will be against me. Because I need you, even I'm withdrawing. So if you are against each other, so each one of you will be competing to be close to me because you will be 1-on-1 in front of China. And you will need the original support. I think. So other impacts, for sure. Now you have to deploy more vessels. I'm sure that Korea is not happy with deploying forces in Hormuz Strait, whatever you call it, the vessels, military ships, because it's provoking Iran. Maybe it will be a hunt someday. I'm sure about that. And in this case, really, I'm surprised. This is giving an opportunity to China to have more space and relations, isolate the United States from its alliances, because they have very good relation with Iran. And at the same time, even with Europe, they feel the same, because they are not on the same soil, same ground with the United States concern in terms of the crisis against Iran. So this is a very strong impact. Again, you know, how much investments, I mean, they are all affected, not only from Korea, it's from Japan, even Taiwan, whatever it is you consider a country or not. So really, that's why China trying to do its best. Okay, China here, this is one of the impacts. I think also it's related. China here is more influential in East Asia than the Middle East. Russia and the United States more influential in the Middle East. So that's why you find Russia and the United States using more sharp power in our region. But at the same time, China even is second in the power after the United States and stronger than Russia using the soft power in our region. So they show here the ugly face, they show to us the angel face, let me say it this way. So what I mean from that I think this will give China more opportunity to avoid mistakes are being done by the United States. In the time Russia is exploiting mistakes because the sharp power, not like sanctions, they don't do this military pressure or whatever, they use fake news more, exploiting mistakes of the United States. So I think this kind of impacts here, that it's giving more influential, I can say, status to China, and it's giving more, how can I say, more existence to what I call it, to China in the Middle East. This is another one. That's why I believe that you have a big know-how, you, Japan, and also Taiwan, I think, and this must find more space in our region, because this is the way to make you existing more and to have your right to live. I was in Japan just before coming here. I love this country, really, I love them. But I could feel that they think how to be existing more in the Middle East, how to find the role, which is within the Indo-Pacific. And that's why other impact on Asia, India. India, they have to have a role in our region. This is my last point. Why? I think 2 or 3 reasons. Number 1, India is a member of Indo-Pacific. And number 2, it is the true historical enemy to China. It's not Japan, not Korea. It's a true historical enemy to China. And they know very well that they need their place in the Middle East for the 3rd reason, which is the most important one, Indian labor. The biggest labor in GCC and in the Middle East in total. And Indian labor, if they withdraw any time, go back to India because of the war, the crisis, whatever happened, so it will be like really disaster to India. And I'm sure they think about that. I think the only problem with India is something internal bureaucratic issue in their leadership, however. So I think they are keen. This, I can summarize the impact.